November 30th, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and December 1st, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then H, consideration and possible action to ratify the action for the agreement for professional services with Pari Corporation for the upgrading of new lighting on the town common and library walkway in the amount of $38,860 of funding through ARPA. And then lastly, consideration and possible action to accept a letter of resignation from part-time firefighter Jeff White, effective October 3rd, 2024. Old business, new business, correspondence, approval of minutes, citizens forum, and adjournment. So with that, can you everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I would just like to take a moment of silence to just think about everybody in the Southeast. Florida is still in a major point of recovery, and just everybody who lost their lives, and just prayers to a quick and speedy recovery. Thank you. Public service announcements. Town of Sturbridge election schedule. I'm going to go, we are up to the 21st, right? So the town hall will be having, be open for voting on October 22nd, tomorrow, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Wednesday, the 23rd, again, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thursday, the 24th, again, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Then on Friday, from October 25th, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Again, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. This will be the last day to register to vote. So if anybody is not registered to vote at home, please do so. On a Monday, October 28th, it will be 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Town Hall. On October 29th, it will be again 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Town Hall. And then Wednesday, October 30th, and Thursday, October 31st, there will also be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. again at Town Hall. Friday, November 1st, it will be 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Town Hall. And then Friday, November 1st, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. But I already repeated that, strike that. And then on Tuesday, November 5th, the state election will be held. And again, this is not at Town Hall. This is from 6:30 a.m. To 8 p.m. at the Sturbridge Host Hotel Bottle Room. So that is the election schedule. Please, everybody vote. Then we have a notice of what is advance. That again, we have notice of advance removal of early voted ballots from envelopes and advance depositing of early voted ballots for the 2024 election. So in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 54, Section 25B, as amended by Section 10 of Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2022, the town of Sturbridge will be opening and/or depositing early voted ballots at the Sturbridge Town Hall, 308 Main Street, at the following sessions: Monday, October 28th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Tuesday, October 29th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Wednesday, October 30th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Thursday, October 31st, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. A full record of advance removal and advance depositing will be kept for each session in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 54, Section 25B, as amended by Section 10 of Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2022. No results shall be determined or announced until after the time the polls close on November 5th. At that time, the results from the advanced process ballots will be added to the election day results and posted in a public place. So thank you to Lynn and the clerk's office for all of their hard work in this election season. Again, moving forward on to the Sturbridge Young Conservation Commission, strike that. The Sturbridge Conservation Commission launches a Young Conservationist Award Program. So if this is open to high school juniors and seniors who live in or attend school in Sturbridge who want to apply to be a young conservationist and celebrate preserving our natural resources for the welfare of the community and the state. So please apply on November 27th, 2024, with a winner to be announced January 30th, 2025. So again, it is open to high school juniors and seniors. Please apply and come help us preserve our resources. So with that,
A question on that.
Sure.
So it's getting launched, this is a new program?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's what I thought,
The
too.
photo contest is being resurrected, and this is a new program.
That's what I thought. Okay, great.
all right, and so then we are on to, unless anybody has any other public service announcements, anything else? No. All right, and then we are on to the cable advisory update.
I just want to thank Mr. Menard and his team. This board has worked really hard. This is a very complex issue, and Massachusetts law does not make it easy, and our local cable, or the national cable companies do not make it easy either. So I just want to pass along thanks to Mr. Menard and the Cable Commission.
Thank you. So I will probably be brief. I think the last time I said you'd see me, you will see me more. Just to give you a current state of where we are, I have given Spectrum informal notice that we are planning to intend to negotiate the contract. I think did you respond to the?
Yes, I did.
So
The
the
state
state wants
asked
to
us.
know what's going on, so that's all we have to tell them at this point is we plan to negotiate. We pretty much have done our ascertainment around what it is that we need, and we've done the steps necessary. So at this point, I'm working on a draft of a letter to formally notify Spectrum. I do, and I think it was mentioned last time about you willing to spend money. I need to get that. I do want to work with town council. Because I think in that letter, there's things I'd like to indicate to make sure that we protect the town and protect our ability to negotiate. I've been through this before, not through a contract, but the cable contract, but contract negotiations. So I think there's certain things that I want to get in there that I think town council has to weigh in on, right? And then following that, we can send that to Spectrum to alert them. There's things in there, there's deliverables that I'm going to ask for that they haven't really fulfilled in giving us, so, and then we want to make sure going forward that they're giving us what they're supposed to give us contractually. And then I probably would like to the next step would schedule a follow-up with town council to specifically, and then anybody who wants to join that, I think, I don't know the protocols for that, but around my tactical plan around what it is that the committee has come up with of things to negotiate that we want to be able to be prepared for and get town council buy-in as we progress. And then my understanding is Spectrum will send us their information to start the negotiation process, but before they do that, I would like them to honor what I'm going to ask for in the deliverables. So I anticipate that probably over the next month we can get that done, and then we'll be on our way. I will say I am following the city of Worcester very closely. I am going to call, I have not yet, I'm going to talk to the city administrator, because they, much like us, have had issues and concerns. They have delayed their extension, and they've extended their contract negotiations for a variety of reasons. So I do want to talk to them a little bit about some lessons learned. They actually paid a consultant to do some of the work. They want to see what they're willing to share. A lot of it is public information. So I just want to reach out to them and kind of get an idea. There are a few towns, there's another town, I can't think of it at the moment, that also has followed the same path of extending the negotiation. So that's kind of where we're at. I will let you all know once we send that letter. I don't know, Robin, I think you're out for the rest of the week. Can I send it to?
You can send, I'll be on my email, and you
Okay.
can send them a
So
sheet.
I'm going to just draft it and then with questions in it so that you can pass it to town council, and then maybe it's worth setting up a meeting to go through
We'll
it.
pass that along this week.
But I don't know who wants to join me or what this is where I am not sure the proper protocols, but I would invite anybody from the Board of Selectmen to be part of that process and discussions, understand what we're going to intend to negotiate.
Well, I think, well, first of all, that's all great. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for all the effort, and it seems to make sense to me. Does anybody have any questions for Al?
No, just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, my curiosity was just piqued, and Al, you might not be in a position tonight to answer, but what things in the contract have they not fallen through on with our existing contract
Just
that,
reporting. For example, actually, one good one is just, and one of the big ones is looking at it's like a strand map of what the technology is and the infrastructure in the town. So that's key. We need to understand, where are they at with upgrading the town? because that plays into a lot of some of the complaints I think we hear is around certain parts of the town have not been updated. The complaints, I think we need to do a better job of educating the public on how to complain, because if you call, that doesn't mean anything. They don't track it. I think I talked about this the last time. The only way to formally log a complaint is in writing. So I want them to explain to me, too, does that include email? I don't believe it does. But I want to understand that process so that we also can educate the public when they have concerns that using social media is not the best way necessarily to address it, because that's a lot of times where we hear it. That we do need written complaints. We went from 2 years ago to 36 complaints last year. And if you think about it, I mean, if you're on social media, you see a lot of complaints about people complaining about Spectrum and the service in the town. And that's not limited to Sturbridge.
Sure.
So it's just, they are, the way they operate is that a complaint, it has to be written for it to be logged and tracked. So that's part of some of the things I'm going to ask for them.
Are you saying an email doesn't suffice?
I don't believe it does. I'm going to
So
confirm
they
that.
want,
That happens
we
in a
call
lot of
snail
cases.
mail, or-
In federally regulated, I work in financial services, a complaint logged in writing outweighs anything else. If somebody calls, it's not necessarily tracked.
no, I get that.
Yeah. Email.
Given my
email is
background, but
not-
an email is in writing, it's electronic mail.
But it
No.
doesn't necessarily apply. I think some of the federal rules are still dated.
But the point being is that it's largely around compliance, reporting relationships,
Exactly.
and getting any data that we can give and get to make an informed bargaining thing. No, it makes sense to me.
But that's on us. That's on us, I think, to do
Yeah.
a better job to communicate as we learn and define exactly what the process is. But there's a number of things that they owe us from the contract that they have not fulfilled.
Okay, great.
Those will all be in the letter.
Yeah,
Aaron.
no, that makes sense. Excellent. Well, thank you for the update. We'll look for that and kind of build it out from there, okay?
All right.
I'll be in touch with you on the
Yeah,
letter
yeah.
and next steps.
Next couple of days, I'll get it to you.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. And I would just say, before we go to the town administrator's update, those two gentlemen in the back, I'm going to make sure that if you cause any problems, we will call the police department, okay?
And you got no pull here, no pull here.
All right, moving on. Robin, please.
Very quickly, I just have a brief update. Walker Pond on December 9th, there will be a neighborhood meeting. I don't know if you recall, there were discussions in the past about arsenic levels in Walker Pond, potentially related to runoff from the Mass Pike. We've been working with DOT and the engineers to work on a potential design. They had 3 or 4 different potential designs on how they could or could not run water, run drainage. It's relatively complicated, it's very costly. They have not committed at all to paying for it. But this is simply a first step, and we have invited Representative Smola as well, and obviously the Board of Selectmen are invited December 9th to get updates and hear what the neighbors' concerns are and what we can or cannot do. Who's impacted, who's not. Some wells aren't impacted, some are, and some people would have to maybe pay betterments if they wanted to. It's a complicated situation, so
How many wells are adversely
I
impacted?
don't recall the number. I don't recall a number on that. But it's, but the project is a huge undertaking if it's going to happen, and we don't know that it will. There are mitigation techniques to make the water okay, but again, I think all that's gonna be dealt with the engineers that night.
Do you have a time for the meeting, Robin?
I think it's 4:30.
Okay,
We scheduled it at 4:30.
thank you.
Trainings, we continue to do Maya trainings. I want to thank Michelle. We do not have a person, there's usually a paid risk management person in a town. Michelle has taken that on, and I'm going to look forward next year to having her continue to do so, and we may discuss further whether we want to make that an official title or position, because it does benefit us to have that. We lost out on $15,000 in the past couple of years of rewards for not doing these trainings, so we're looking to recover that money every year. And so I'd like to formalize that more, regardless of who's sitting in the chairs, that this gets done, because that's what happened. Past TAs and their administrators have done it, and then with all the turnover, it got lost. So I do think this is something I want to formalize. I hate losing $15,000 a year for nothing. And it, by the way, it's good to train. And it also helps us potentially when we have disputes, lawsuits, or anything else, to say, well, have you trained the people? Yes, we have. So we're working on that and getting really ramped up on that. MMA's legislative breakfast, I go to these every quarter or so, changing topics, same topics over and over, you know, it doesn't really change that much. Cedar Lake, I did have Lauren and I met with some residents who are looking to discuss a little bit on lake testing for algae bloom. Not so much an issue this year, but going into next year, how we can do that. 250th birthday, I do want to throw this on everybody's radar. It's coming very quickly, the nation's birthday. We don't have any dedicated committee, but I am thinking that maybe we should have a 250th committee. I do think it might likely fall in conjunction with the Memorials and Monuments Committee, because there's a lot of overlap there with historic and everything else. But I just want to put it across your radar if you want me as a board to consider establishing a committee for this, because this is more than any one person can handle. And I think it really is truly a community event, not a town administrator or even just a selectman. I think it's really a true broad community event to celebrate the nation. So is that the will of the board to be to pull together a committee, or?
I think so.
I think it's an excellent idea. When we went to Bob Rear's thank you. Celebration for all his years of service to our town and really the state. And we were watching PowerPoint or a video presentation that was put together. There was that beautiful parade with floats. And the high school, had floats. And I thought, wouldn't that be nice for us to be able to have that level of
Gotta do
parade?
something, yeah.
And he organized, I think he was instrumental in organizing that one. So
I'll put
it
it
was
together.
very impressive, what they did
Wonderful.
for that celebration. That's just,
Terrific. No, and you know what, we should probably get what happened then and see what we want to do and
Yes.
print that. Okay, so if the board's comfortable with that, I'll look forward to putting a committee together.
Great.
Absolutely.
And then finally, DOT, you had a letter from DOT, we received a letter about $6 million in projects. We believe this is the Hall Road, future Hall Road light, whatever. But the letter was very benign. We weren't really sure specifically what it was. Jean did send me the link, by the way, just the updated projects, in case you're interested in seeing them from DOT. You can peruse those at your own discretion and cringe or not, depending on the status. And then finally, I just want to pass along a thank you to DPW from Paul Barron. He sent me an email from Burgess Elementary. He said Heather and her team have gone above and beyond on doing some striping, saving them approximately, I think he said $24,000 with the
Nice.
work that she's been doing with her team. So thank you to everybody on that.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Robin. All right, we are moving on to action items. The first one being consideration and possible action on the appointment of Stephen Bowdy to the Sturbridge Memorials and Monuments Committee.
So Mr. Bowdy came by my office, he reached out, and then he came by and said he was interested in getting involved in town. He and his wife have just moved into town, Draper Woods,
Yes, I live in the Draper Woods.
and from Worcester, right?
Worcester, yes.
And wanted to get more involved. We had a couple of committee openings, and I suggested the memorials and monuments, and I want you to share with them, because I found it a kind of a real neat reason to want to be on a committee, if you want to share, I think, with this board, why that committee appealed to you, because you had a couple
Absolutely.
options.
Thank you very much, Robin. My name is Stephen Boadi. Originally, I'm from Ghana. I moved to the United States in 2013. I think that America has given a lot to me, and I'm so much grateful for the opportunity. I'm blessed. I've been married for 7 years with 3 daughters, and all my 2 daughters, actually 2 of them are actually in the Burgess Elementary. It's exciting to me. I made a bold step to relocate to Sturbridge, which after several consultations, I finally decided to be part of this community. And then for me personally, I think that the best way to give back to the community, I was looking for ways and means to be involved. And of course, I reached out to Robin and then the team, and they offered that there is a space for the Memorials Committee, and it's brilliant. I just want to be part, and just want looking for ways and means to contribute to my skill set. And then everything, my energy, time that I have to support the cause of this institution. And then, of course, in the future, if there's an opportunity, of course, maybe I can do much, much better beyond that committee. So I'm pleased and I'm excited to be part of this. And then the kind of welcome that I received from the people of Sturbridge, it's so overwhelming. The love, the support. I never experienced this in Worcester, and I'm quite surprised. But this is I love Sturbridge, so I just want to give back to the community. And currently, I work as a data scientist, a data engineer, and I hold a master's degree in data science. So I'm more into data analysis, do a bit more of machine learning, and doing a lot of predictive analysis. So feel free, I'm a numbers guy, so.
He's on the list to be a backup for other committees that might open, and I've got his name in reserve.
I'm just excited to be part of this group, and thank you for the support, the love you've shown me, and then I'm most grateful.
He had discussed with me an interest in American history as well. We talked about the citizenship process,
Yes.
which was very interesting conversation, and.
Yes, I mean, I can dabble into that. So, I mean, as part of, as if you're an immigrant, as part of the United States, you have to remain in the U.S. for like 5 years before you go through naturalization. And then we were asked to study the U.S. history, and I did. So we had to memorize like 100 questions, and then out of that, you would be asked 10 questions. If you don't pass, you don't get naturalized. So if I tell you that even though I was not born in the United States, but I think I've studied a lot about American history, and then for me, it's incredible, and I just looking for ways and means to contribute. So we've gone through the rigorous process to be part of the community, and I'm still grateful for, especially, raising my children here in the States, it's a blessing. So.
No, we appreciate it, and I think we're the only two people in the room that have been to Ghana.
And you said the American history, very interesting. You probably know more about American history than a lot of us who were born in this country.
I said to-
I'm not
I
happy
looked
to
at the test
say.
one time, and it talked about things like the Federalist Papers, and I thought, I guarantee you,
You gotta go
nobody
back,
knows.
so.
All right, so with that, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Stephen, and I pronounce how, Bodie?
Bodhi.
Bodie, to the Sturbridge Memorials and Monuments Committee.
I'll second that.
Great, all those in favor? Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
They're meeting within the next few weeks.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Stephen. All right, consideration and possible action on the change of manager application filed by Apple New England LLC from Chris Agnetti to Amy Ann Madison. Amy? All right. So I take it you're the new manager?
Correct. I've worked for Applebee's for 10 years this year.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions on the application?
No, it looked like it was in order.
Seems like it was in order to me as well. All right. Then do we have, unless there's any questions, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the change of manager application filed by Apple New England LLC from Chris Agnetti to Amy Ann Madison.
Second.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Just work with Michelle for any of the paperwork you need.
Thank you.
All right, and on to our last troublemaker. We are consideration and possible action on the proposed fiscal policy updates. All right, boys, buckle up.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
You can give him an iPad.
All right, so you've had the policies for a couple weeks. I apologize. I was a bit under the weather at your last meeting, kind of last minute. But I wanted to just highlight the changes to the policy. As you review it, there's some minor Board of Selectmen to Select Board, a few changes that really just like the wording better on review. But the major changes are, so the combined free cash and stabilization, we've increased it from 10 to 12% to 10 to 15%. And there's language in there that we can, to maintain at a minimum of those amounts, so it can be higher. So if we had a stabilization balance or a free cash balance that was higher than, say, the 15%, that is allowable under the policy. Especially examples are if we're saving for a future expenditure down the road, we would want to be able to do that. So we wouldn't want to deplete all of the balances to get to that low end. So I did add language regarding that. The free cash specifically goes from it's currently 3 to 7%. It's going to go to 5 to 7.5%. Same thing with stabilization, from now 3 to 7, proposed 5 to 7.5%. There's language in the policy right now that states that we will contribute a minimum of $50,000 a year to our OPEB liability, other post-employment benefits. We've been contributing $100,000 for a number of years now, so I'm increasing the policy to say a minimum of $100,000. Water and sewer, I added language that if we have debt excluding betterments, it should not exceed 40% of the operating revenues, so 40% for water, 40% for sewer. We also added language regarding reserves, so that's been a discussion we've had a lot over the years as to what should our reserve fund balances be for water and sewer. So the language that was added was, it's 35% of operating budget, no less than $750,000 for water, and it would be the 35% of the operating budget, no less than $1 million for sewer. So our goal is to replenish those reserves to those limits. The expenditures on the sewer side things are a lot more costly on the sewer side than water, and that's why we increased it to the $1 million versus the $750,000. I rewrote the capital planning policy. The purpose of that was really to kind of fine tune it to the way we're doing things, more easily explain the policy. Just kind of, there was a lot to that policy, and I just tried to streamline it. The other thing was the current, the capital number right now, a capital expenditure now is $5,000. We are recommending increasing that to $15,000. 15,000 is actually still low in my opinion, but I think it's a good stepping stool. Robin and I did have discussions about bringing that up to 25,000, but we thought that that was too drastic of a step.
What's the state's minimum on bids?
$10,000 is when you need to get 3, yeah.
It means a little more, absorbing a little more into the operating budget as opposed to capital, but it's just more appropriate.
So we also added language that indicates that with the recommendation of both the town administrator and the finance director, we can determine what the funding source should be. So for instance, people submit their capital budget, which we're talking about capital right now. If we had a lot of expenditures in a year that were under that $15,000 threshold, we could decide to present, when Robin presents the budget, we could decide that, you know what, it makes sense this year to have those as part of the capital budget. We did that a few years ago when they replaced the alarm systems throughout all the buildings. So individually, the building cost was lower, didn't meet the threshold, but collectively it did.
It was still a
So-
capital project.
Exactly. So depending on what it is, but we wanted to have the flexibility that if we could not afford to put everything into the operating budget, that we could still fund these capital needs that are really not capital under the policy, but have a longer life than just, it's not disposable, okay? So there's language to that. And then also added language that the tax impact or rate impact of a borrowing must be included in the recommendation. So I have been trying to do that when we move a project forward, as to, you know, if you approve this water project, it's going to be X number of cents on the water rate or the sewer rate. Same thing with a borrowing, like the senior center, for instance. We had indicated if the debt exclusion was passed, this is what it would be on the tax rate, how many cents on the tax rate. I wanted to put language in there that just memorialized what we have been doing over the years. So there's language added for that. And then the debt management section of the policy, I did also update that language. I think it more clearly defines what debt is and how decisions are made and what we need to do when we decide to actually borrow money long-term. And that was it.
I want to thank Barbara for tremendous effort on this. I think it's still fiscally very prudent. I think it stays within what we believe we have to do to keep the town steady. That 7% or so number is right with what the government standards tend to look at. 2 months operating budget or 7, a lot of people will talk about 7% as the floating number. It gives the latitude, it doesn't let us drop below that 5. And again, DOR is a lower number, but DOR is looking at much larger cities where $1 million of sewer line repair in Boston and $1 million of sewer line repair here is still $1 million. But $1 million for them is a whole lot less than $1 million for us. So the percentage just doesn't work in that situation for us. But we, again, I want to thank Barbara, and codifying the capital process a little bit more, having it defined, and really not using it for what should be operating funds, I think is important, but having the latitude on something that is really capital in nature but doesn't hit the 15,000 necessarily, just a little bit of latitude without making this so inflexible that it becomes illogical too. So for common sense purposes, a little bit of latitude with the agreement of 2 different people, and then obviously that always goes forward in a budget presentation anyway for future vetting. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara, appreciate it. So, all right, questions for the board?
I
Ms.
have a
Carey.
few questions. I do want to thank Barbara as well, because I've been wanting, to have us looking at this in terms of applying it to lower the tax rate when we exceed what our financial policy guidelines say. So I just wanted to say the capital planning policy that you rewrote, I thought you did an excellent job.
Oh, thank you.
Making it a lot easier to understand and reader-friendly. So that was excellent. So I just want to say that. I do have a few questions, though. On page 5, the Capital Stabilization Fund, subparagraph 4. Am I reading this correctly, that it went from a minimum of 0.5% to 5%?
No.
Okay.
We were going to increase that to 1. That's the problem when you track changes.
Yeah.
And then you go backwards.
No, we didn't
So
go
we
that
left
much.
it, we left it the same.
Yeah, it's
You left it at 0.5?
Yeah.
I thought it went to 5, which would have been a 500% increase. And now, between that and the 15%, we were going to have 20% in reserves, and my blood pressure went up, and now I can exhale.
Mine will too.
Okay, all right, so thank
We
you.
initially
thought
thought we
about
would go
1.
from 0.5 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay, which
and
would have
then
doubled.
When we
Okay.
talked about it, we decided not to do that right now.
Okay, so that's status quo.
That's status
Yes.
quo.
Okay, so then, I did have that question, and I think that you commented that we're not a city, because, when you Google it, it says 5 to 7% is what the state recommends, and we're going to be at 15.
So that's the DOR.
Yes.
Free
MGF,
cash balance, they advise, and they don't distinguish, I might say, between towns and.
It's much different for a lot of
And cities, but it says free cash balance of 5 to 7% of general fund budget in the reserve fund. And we're double that. I understand where you're coming from. I do have a question, though. It also goes on to say that by law, the annual cumulative reserve balance for a town cannot exceed 5% of the prior year property tax levy. So I have 2 questions with that. 1, can you explain it to me? And 2, under our new numbers, what percentage are we keeping in our cumulative reserve balance in terms of last year's levy? Because we can't exceed 5%. Are we at 4.5? Are we at 5 with the new numbers?
I don't know what that is that you're reading. but-
Okay, I didn't either, but when I
So
Googled.
I
Let
would
me
have-
just tell you, let me just read it to you, because it cites a MGL. And so if it can be answered at some point, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, if you want to just give me the MGL reference, and then I can
Okay,
research it
let's
and
see.
get back to you. I don't,
Ring a bell on any,
no. So let me just, DOR, Department of Revenue, has a certain percentage that if you go on to DOR, DLS, they're going to give a percentage. And then GFOA, which it has a different standard. And so, as an example, so what Robin just said about 2 months operation, so that's GFOA. So for us, 2 months of operations is almost $3.6 million. So I took our operating budget, 5% which is what the new well, we didn't change the low end, okay, of our policy. So that would be 2.1 million, 2,133,000 and a little bit more. 7.5% to the high end of where we're looking to put it is 3,200,000, which still falls below 2 months of operations.
And
So
that's sort of my litmus
that-
number. I like 2 months of operations. We're just under it, so at the
We're just
high end.
under it
So I'm
at that
comfortable.
15%, so 7.5 and 7.5. So that leaves, based on right now, our free cash was almost $6 million this year. If we factor that out, that's about 2.7 million to use for expenditures. Or, I know, reducing the tax rate, or whatever the board decides, and there is language specifically in this policy that says what to do if there's extra money. So, what I would say is this, though, last year, our capital budget, give me one sec, so I did write it down, was 3,116,000. Less 1.4 million or 1.7 million without the fire truck. So we last year made the collective decision that we were not going to borrow for that fire truck because we had that $7 million number for free cash, okay? But 1.7 million, if we were to follow this, what we have been doing in the past years, which is we've had, pretty large capital needs. Vehicles is one of the big things. Anticipate going forward this year, we're going to have a lot of vehicle purchases this year for a lot of different reasons, of which we'll talk about when we get into budget season. However, if we operate in the same way, that we're at like 1.7 million to that 2 million, that's where we are with capital needs. We're looking at reserving the percentages we need to reserve, and then spending all but maybe $700,000 of free cash. So that's before we do any of the other things that have the discussions of, this project's coming down the road, maybe we should, not spend money for this project, whether or not you as a board decide to offer tax relief, which again is allowed under the policy. So there's a lot of things to look at. So those limits, I don't know. Again.
Yeah, if I could just read it into the record and then maybe get an answer for me next time. It says, and we cover this, in Massachusetts, the state recommends that towns limit their use of free cash and strive to keep a year-end unappropriated free cash balance of 5 to 7%. That's free cash. We're going to keep 15. I understand where we're coming from.
No.
Next.
7.5.
Well, I'm sorry.
That's just talking about free cash so far.
And not stabilization.
Okay, I'm sorry, 7.5. Okay, so we're going to be just a little bit above their maximum. Towns can also establish reserve funds to cover extraordinary or unforeseen expenditures. The annual cumulative reserve balance for a town cannot exceed 5% of the prior year property tax levy. So I'll just send that to you, and then maybe you can.
I think if you add up all of our reserves, capital, like the regular annual reserve money that we have, the sewer reserve, all the reserve funds, it probably doesn't come over 5%.
I'm sure it
Not
doesn't,
even
but.
close.
But maybe
I
you
don't
can
think,
just tell me what it is.
Yeah.
Because
We'll get you that
when I
now.
looked
Yeah.
at that, I was like,
Yeah,
well,
the reserve funds
are
aren't
we
that
going
big.
above now
Yeah.
that we increased our numbers?
We're
Yeah.
we're definitely not going
No.
above.
Okay, but it would just be good to know.
No.
And then I
Does that
do
have
want to
a-
stress
does that
that
have an MGL
I feel
reference?
like,
Hold on, Mary, just.
oh, I'm sorry, Barbara.
Have an MGL reference that you're.
Not
doing?
on this.
That's fine.
I'll just send you the picture.
Yeah, that's okay.
I do want to stress that under the policy, and this isn't a change, it's always been there. Page 4, it says, "Free cash in excess of the town's goal should be used for non-recurring or emergency expenditures used to lower the tax rate." That's where you referenced it. And I feel like in the past few years, we did exceed our policy, what it read before, and we didn't lower the tax rate. So I hope that by agreeing to these increased amounts, that if it does exceed, even if it's 16% or 17%, that we should use it to lower the tax rate, because for many years, the majority of the years that I sat on this board, we always had a warrant article to reduce the tax rate. And I know it doesn't amount to a lot of money. People were saying, well, it's only $50 or $60. But the view was always, well, we got to give something back. It used to be 200 with Jim Malloy, then it went to 250 with Shantahowski, then we went to 300,000 for a couple of years with Leon. And for the past few years, we haven't given anything back, even though the language says we should.
So what I would ask is that as we get closer to budget season and we're ready to pull the warrant together, that maybe this board makes a collective decision as to whether or not they want a warrant article considered. At that point, we could say to you, we will have approximately, we expect to spend this much on capital. And then, so you have some numbers in front of you, and then let the board, that's really a policy decision for the board. If it's the will of the board,
Well,
we'll
it's
put that
typi-
warrant article in
Right.
there. But I'd
In the
rather have
past,
it
though-
generated from the board.
Well, hold on though, Robin. In the past, that was always part of the budget process.
Right.
And we didn't generate that. That came as a recommendation by, now, you don't want to give the recommendation, I understand, but that always came as a recommendation from prior TAs. It was already within our, and it was explained, we've exceeded what we need, blah, blah, blah. We think we can reasonably do this. A couple of times we increased it by like 50,000 or something. But that came as a result of doing the number crunching and then having an article. So, I mean, I feel like if we're going to follow the policy, that should come as a recommendation, or at least give us how much of a percentage we're exceeding
That's why I think if I
our
provide you
policy
the
by.
numbers, and then you all can make a determination on
So
how
that
much.
we have something to go by.
Yep.
And then my other request, and maybe the rest of the board won't go
Can we
along
go
with
off
this.
that, though? Could I, before you
Oh,
go to
sure,
your next
yes.
thing? Okay, so we have never, in all the time that I've been here, you brought the free cash balance down to exactly the number of the high end of the policy. So I agree with you that everything she said, that is the way for how the article used to come forward, but that wasn't, the number in that article was never an amount to get you, to basically get your number down
I
to
agree.
a certain thing. The other thing I would say is the language says if, with the way it's written, if it exceeds the high end of our number, the board may, right?
I understand,
No,
it's
no, no, so I'm
permissive.
just, yeah, so I'm just saying, so these are things that are what that excess money can be used for if we get to the point where we have more.
Totally
Right.
agree,
So
but
I
the
just
past
want-
practice
No, I
has
understand.
been not generated from the board, it's come
I-
as a recommendation from our TA, and I'm not trying to suggest it got us to the minimum
No.
of what this range was.
So you know what, it's sort of a chicken and an egg.
Right.
And we can,
Yeah.
when we look at the budget, we'll have a better sense
Okay,
of.
and then my other request would be, I kind of want to know what are, so we've had the same bond rating. It's a AA, right. And I know, as you explained to us last year, that's probably as good as we're going to get because of the size. We're not as big, so our property values,
County is
we're
not as
not like
big.
a suburb of a city, and it's still an excellent one, but we're not. So I guess I would like to know, like, what are other towns similarly situated doing in terms of what they're keeping in free cash and reserve fund?
I have that,
Because
somewhere.
I
I can
feel
pull
like,
that up for you.
I feel like anytime we have recommendations to increase salaries, we do a 10-town comparison. We do it with labor unions to determine what is fair and equitable. I just kind of want to know, are they all
some of those. I can-
also
I can
keeping
get those.
15%? And what is their rating? Because I just feel like,
I want to push back on that, though. I don't have a problem with the comparator, that makes sense to me, because that's good fiscal planning. But I want to do but the notion that because somebody else is not as saving as aggressively and still achieving the same bond rating, that's part of the importance of it, but it's also, it's not the only piece of it, it's also the things are much more expensive right now, so having cash and not relying on the bond rating is in the interest of the town, and it's been a weird few years already, like part of the reason we didn't quite give back the same way, so I think that was the COVID year, we were out of money, right, so without the Fed, so I hear what you're saying, but I think it's like, that's a little too one-to-one for my
Oh, yeah, it's not
comfort level.
just, it's not just about the bond rating. I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
And every town's needs are different
the
in
big
terms
thing.
of,
Yeah, that's-
someone might
that's more
not
what I'm
need a
trying
new
to say.
school. We
Yeah,
may,
exactly, yeah.
in years to come, need a new middle
Infrastructure
school.
might be older than some, a larger town, a smaller town.
Right, it's gotta be
It's
town
not just for
specific.
bond rating reasons that we keep that
But when you
low.
see like
Part of it, though.
the state putting some general guidelines out there for what towns should have, it makes you think, well, let's see what towns are actually doing. Because the state came out with 5 to 7. I get that we don't think that's enough. But are some towns only doing what the state, that bare minimum, or are they, maybe they're doing 20%? I would be curious to know what similarly situated towns are doing.
And I will also, in conjunction with that, point out when I look through that, if I can find out if those towns have also done overrides on top of it, because that's
Right,
also.
no, I know, that's part of the
that's-
picture.
It's all part of the big picture than just.
And maybe they're keeping more, you know, it might go the other way. I just
Or
would
may
like
not,
to
and they're doing it
know,
override and spending
Yeah.
exorbitantly, so
I just want to know where we fall.
Yep.
And I would like to know about this can't exceed 5% of the,
Yeah, which I don't think really do, but we'll find out for sure on what the.
yeah,
the
just tell
spirit
me
of
what
that
it
is.
means and what
Yep,
we're doing.
That's easy enough.
Okay, Mary Lou Chase?
Just thank you, Barbara. I know how much work this is, and I know you did a really good job on it.
That makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank
given the scale of the town and the cost of everything, the recommendations seem pretty logical to me. You know, but that's just because if I've left my own devices, I'll burn money, obviously. But I don't think we have anything else for you at the
So
moment.
if you could vote to adopt them, that would be great.
Or do we want to hold Mary on any of your questions?
I'm happy to adopt it, I thought it was reasonable, but I would like those
Yeah, I'll
Absolutely.
definitely, I'll follow up.
answered.
All right, guys, so do we have a motion to adopt well, I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed fiscal policy updates, most recently dated 11/20.
Here's what I found.
Oh, that's not right.
Siri wants to
Yeah,
get
series,
involved.
provided, I don't know what these are dated, but discussed tonight and provided a few weeks ago by Barbara.
Second.
All those in favor? Great.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Have
Barbara.
a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
All right, we are on to consideration and possible action, authorize the chair to execute the engineering services contract for VHB for the design of access to Streeter Beach.
So I'm gonna ask that we hold on that one, I've gotta get in front of Barbara.
All right, sounds good. Sidewalks along the Sturbridge Rec area on Cedar Street.
So this one, ARPA had, and the board had already approved 100,000. The bids came in at 126. So I need to go back to ARPA to get more funding allocated, which we have.
Okay.
If the board would consider voting approval pending ARPA approval on this, then I don't have to, I can, we're having an ARPA meeting on the 28th, I can get this going right away.
Okay, questions, comments from the board? Anybody have any issue with that? All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for the services related to sidewalks along Sturbridge Rec area and Cedar Street pending ARPA.
Second.
All those in favor?
Great, thank you.
All right. Consideration and possible action authorize the chair to award the bid for the WTP well number 1 filter media replacement to Sherbon Consolidated Incorporated in the amount of $575,300.
Yeah, a lot of money. So this was a warrant article. We'd actually gone back to a special town meeting to get a little more money. And then even with the bids, we did all the alternates and we're still actually under budget a little bit, but this has to get done. You all have seen the water plant. So this is something that has said is absolutely a necessity.
Yeah, I don't have any questions about it. Does the board? No. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the chair to award the bid for the WTP well number 1 filter media replacement to Sherbon Consolidated, Inc. in the amount of $575,300, base bid plus add alternatives 1 through 3.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Great. Consideration and possible action on a transient vendor application for Keith Blakely for Country Folk Arts Show on November 29th, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., November 30th, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and December 1st, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Great.
This is one of my favorite craft shows.
All right, so consideration and possible action to ratify the action for the agreement, professional services with Pari Corporation for the upgrading of new lighting on the town common and library walkway in the amount of $38,860 funded through ARPA.
So I'm asking for forgiveness instead of permission. I had to get this rolling so they can go out to bid for this electrical commons, because everything has to be under contract for ARPA by December 31st, so I really couldn't wait. The project has been approved by ARPA and the board, so I am hopeful that you are okay that I signed the $38,000 contract to get at least he's gonna get all the bid specs ready for us and get it out to bid.
I think that's fine. I guess my question on this is, I just want to make sure that the temperature and of the lighting is not too bright and not
Yes,
too.
so this will all, the plan will all go approved. The other thing I just found out through the Memorials and Monuments Committee is that those light posts were custom made in the 70s.
Okay.
I don't know that we'll be able to replace them as custom made, but we are certainly gonna try to go with something as close as possible to what we had. So you will all see a plan of everything before it gets done. This is literally to go out to bid to get the electrical contractors. A lot of this work is stuff you won't see, the conduit work underneath.
Gotcha.
And Tony Crane will be involved in every aspect of this, so that anything that runs over tree roots, around tree roots, near tree roots, Tony will be there to protect the trees.
Okay. I have the same concern as
Yes,
our chair
yes.
in the ARPA meeting.
You all will
because
see,
people love their
No,
common.
this is so visual.
And we,
Oh, yeah, right.
you know, we don't want visual blight, we want it to be just right.
no, listen, I
And
get
so we're gonna
complaints
have
about the
to-
porta potty, so I am not doing a thing without everybody
It
looking
just
at it.
bothers me, but the, all right, so I don't think we
It's
need a
all you.
motion then, because it's already occurred, right?
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
need the motion to codify that I
Okay.
sign my.
We, I'll move to ratify the action for the agreement for professional services with Pari Corporation for the upgrading of new lighting on the town common and library walkway in the amount of $38,860 funded through ARPA, retroactive to the date of execution of the relevant contract.
Second.
All those in favor? The ayes have it. I'm going to make a motion, or moving on to I, I'm going to make a motion to accept with regret the letter of resignation from part-time firefighter Jeff White, effective October 3rd, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor? And was there an exit interview, Robin?
Not with the part-time firefighter, no.
Okay. All right, we are on to old business. Mary Dowling.
The only one I had is from, oh, wait, no, never mind, this is correspondence. I don't know, I guess I can bring it up both ways. I ran into Ian Dunnigan, and he sent an email to me. That area, his area on Cedar Street, he says, Mary has discussed my neighbors and I in the section of Cedar Street between Route 20 and Burgess School, wanted to request an update on the proposed sidewalk project. Any information would be appreciated. He's getting a lot of questions on, and it's grant funded, his section, right? The one, it's gonna go from,
No, that was the complete streets, that grant ended up getting returned, that was applied for long before Heather and I were even here. We didn't even have the resources to do that. Is that the one we're talking about, the complete streets?
I'm talking about the sidewalk that we're looking to go into Burgess.
Oh, that may be the one, is that the one we're doing the ARPA?
Yeah, didn't
Did we just approve Cedar Street sidewalks?
that was what I thought that
I
was
thought
about.
that was the rec area, though.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
that's
because
already-
Ian's up further, was that, right, yeah.
That might be the Complete Streets grant, that was the Complete
think it
Streets
was that.
grant, and we actually, per Jean and Heather, we had to relinquish that because we did not, that got applied for like 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
And we never had the resources to do it, we never had the resources to get on and apply, we're gonna reapply to reopen that as a MassWorks grant, I think that was a MassWorks grant.
I thought the grant was already awarded to us.
It was, and we
So
were
what
never able
happened?
to expend it, we never had the resources to do the
I don't know what that
project.
means,
But
we
we
didn't
need
have the resources.
As I understand it, it never got moved forward, and it just sat there, the grant money, and it expired.
Well, that's
So I've got it, yeah, so I've got it.
That is
yeah.
news to me too, that's not
This all
having
came
the
up literally,
resources, we had the
though, this really
resources.
came up like 3 to 4 weeks ago. I got an email on it, so I will
Were
get
we
you all an
updated
update.
on that? Were we
No, I
told?
literally just got it. I don't know if it came between the last board meeting and this, or right around this month. So I will get you an update on this, but it came across my desk that, oh, the money's expiring, and I was like, what project was this? So I think it went off Heather's radar because it was before her, it was before me. I don't think any of us even were
I
aware of it.
suspect it's a transition issue, but be
Yes.
that as it may, let's get the details and
Yes.
see if we can reopen
Let's-
that money.
let's see if
'cause
we can
that's
reapply for it,
I'm pretty,
yeah.
I'm pretty surprised by that
Yeah,
myself.
So, okay, so I will get back to
Yes.
Ian.
Yeah.
It's going, just so you know, there will be some
oh, yeah, no,
disappointed
no, I know.
people. And I think maybe the school needs to be notified as well, because
Think
that sidewalk was, I believe, going to go right into Burgess.
I sort of sworn the
No, I
schools,
thought that's-
I think,
that's
I think
different.
you're,
That's a different
I think we're
project.
getting things conflated
that-
here.
But
Yeah,
one
that's a
was a
different-
grant,
that
but,
one's-
okay,
yeah.
so that one's moving. It was, the money was getting funded by more than one source.
Right, the Complete Streets one that went way up, I think, is the one that got off the radar.
And well, let's not guess. Let's
Let me
get the
give you a
information.
full update
about
on all,
what
because
has
we have a bunch
happened.
of Cedar Street sidewalks.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
yeah, because, and just for clarification, my understanding of it, and perhaps this is incorrect, but really you're looking at three parts of this, as I recall discussing it. Part one was up through to the school. Part two, which is what I think we were discussing this evening, was to the rec.
Yeah.
And then the part that I think Ian's asking about was if it goes up a little further, right? Because weren't they talking about that?
No,
Ian's
he
talking
doesn't
about-
leave, he doesn't live further beyond the rec. He lives,
Oh, within
he
Cyber.
lives, even closer than Burgess.
The-
He lives in between.
Yeah, there's-
He lives in between Route 20
Yeah.
and the entrance to Burgess.
Here, let me explain it.
Okay.
The first one was Route 20 to the end of Burgess School Road.
Correct.
Paul Guerin applied for one from Burgess to Cedar Street, and then there's one up by the rec.
Right.
Those are the three
Yeah, right,
parcels.
right.
Ian is on the first, between Route
That's the
20 and the
one-
Burgess.
That's the
Yes.
one that had been
Is
applied for
Complete
that
Streets.
I had no clue, and I
Yeah,
found
so
out,
that
I
one
think
down.
and my bad is that I think I heard Cedar Street projects and knew that we
There's-
had them going, and,
Let's not assume that there's a
But
bad, let's
here's
get the
the-
information.
Right,
and
I
figure out
agree.
what's going on.
You're right, the vice principal did.
Yeah.
Well,
Different
not a
source
huge
of
one,
money
yes.
from Burgess on.
Yes.
But they also were under the impression
They needed that sidewalk. on
exactly
Cedar.
that the other one was in place. So in any event, once you have
I'll get you all the
exactly what's going,
information,
they
yeah.
actually should be told.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Okay?
Well, let's get the information, get it organized, and
Yep.
see if you can reopen any of those
Yeah,
funds. Because that's pretty surprising. All right, Mary, any other old businesses?
No, that was it.
Chase?
No, thank you.
Mary Lou?
No, thank you.
All right, Mary Lou, any new business?
No, thank you.
Chase?
Halloween this year. Are we gonna have it announced
It
whenever
was,
that's?
yeah,
I posted it
it's
on
on the
Facebook.
website.
Oh, good,
yeah.
okay,
I don't know if I
perfect.
posted
Oh,
it.
let's make
I
sure.
I know it's not a
I'm
town
pretty
thing,
sure I
but-
do, but I'll check.
Yeah.
I know it's on Facebook.
Yeah,
Thank you, that's it.
yeah.
It's here, center office building and the library.
Well, the daytime, but there's also the
During the
night,
day.
the regular
Yeah.
night Halloween.
Yeah, that
He's
one's
talking about the
definitely-
night Halloween.
Oh, that's posted every
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Mary, any new?
I don't have a new business.
I don't either. Sorry, didn't cut you off. Correspondence?
Just the one that I mentioned in my update, I believe.
Yeah, the
is
dollar thing, and what Mary mentioned about the
Yeah.
minute. Okay, and then we are moving to approval of minutes. Any, Chase was not here. Any, Mary Lou, Mary Dowling, any comments?
I don't think I did.
I didn't see any either.
I know I saw a typo, but I forgot to circle it.
Is it a typo if no one sees it?
I guess not. I'm not gonna worry about it.
I don't think you were gonna worry about it anyways.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 3rd, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Chase, you have to.
I have to hold back.
All right. Citizens forum,
Boys?
Boys, do you have anything to say?
anything at all?
Sure is your chance.
Yeah.
Hold your peace.
All right, so the two degenerates in the back have nothing, so I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, all right.